She begged me, her voice cracking. My husband needs the best surgeon. I heard you're the only one. I looked at her, remembering that phone call from years ago. I stayed silent for a moment, letting her hang there. I'm sorry, I said calmly. But it's not my job to control his outcome. Alright. Read it. I'm spinning out here and I need some perspective. I'm using the word cheating in quotes because, technically, we were never an official couple. But that word feels both wrong and right. And that's pretty much the theme of this whole mess. It started last year. I fell for this woman. Hard. And she fell for me. The problem was, she was married. We managed the distance for a while, but then came the point of no return. I flew to New York to see her while her husband was out of town. The whole trip felt like we were living in a stolen bubble of time. Walking through the city, holding her hand in a crowded subway car. The way she'd look at me in her apartment, it felt more real than anything I'd ever known. And yeah, we obviously had sex. It was intense, passionate, and felt like the physical confirmation of everything we'd been telling each other for months. I left her apartment and was barely on the train home when her husband got back. An hour or two later. Tops. She told me he confronted her that same day. He must have suspected something, because he asked her point blank, "Did you sleep with him?" And she looked him in the eye and lied. A few weeks later, he asked her again, and she denied it again. My brain tried to process this. What did this mean? My first thought wasn't about him, or the morality of it. My first thought was, she's protecting us. This lie felt like a shield she was throwing up around our secret world. It was a clear signal to me that what we had was worth protecting. Even at that cost. I didn't see it as a red flag. I saw it as a twisted kind of commitment. A few months later, they got divorced. And our non-relationship kicked into high gear. We were exclusive. We acted like a couple in every single way. She'd call me late at night and ask me to read love poems to her in Spanish. And I'd stumble through Neruda. My voice thick because I meant every word. We'd send each other paragraphs-long texts about the future. About wanting to build a life together once we get our shit together. She'd tell me things that just pierced my soul. Things that made me feel seen in a way I never had before. But here was the catch. In the middle of all this intimacy, she'd always maintain the line, "I can't offer you a relationship right now." It was a constant push and pull. She'd give me the love, the intimacy, the future plans, but never the security of a title. I was living on faith, completely convinced that her actions and her words of love were the real story. And the not a couple thing was just a temporary technicality while she healed from her divorce. I bought into it completely. For a long time. That was enough for me. I was so madly in love. I was willing to wait. I figured if she was willing to lie to her husband for me, she must really be in this for the long haul. Turns out, I had no idea what she was capable of telling the truth about. That honeymoon phase, or whatever you want to call it, lasted for the better part of a year. But nothing that intense can last forever. Around March, things started to get rocky. I'll be the first to admit I was a big part of the problem. I was going through some heavy personal stuff, and instead of handling it on my own, I put a lot of that weight on her. The long, loving texts became shorter. The late-night calls turned into tense, circular arguments that ended with one of us hanging up. We were losing the magic. And it was terrifying. In June, we had the kind of argument there's no coming back from easily. It was a complete meltdown. I don't even remember what started it. But it ended with her saying she needed space. And then silence. For a whole month. It was the longest month of my life. I was convinced I had pushed her away for good. That idea ruined the best thing that had ever happened to me. Then, early this month, my phone rang. It was her. We had a long, surprisingly productive conversation. We were both calm. We both took responsibility for our parts in the fighting. I could feel the old connection crackling back to life over the phone line. She told me she had been thinking about inviting me back to New York for the upcoming weekend. My heart just about exploded. This was it. This was the second chance I had been praying for. I was still madly, completely in love with her. And I could see the path forward again. I could tell she was more emotionally detached. There was a new distance in her voice. But I figured that was just a defense mechanism. I believed the love was still there, buried under all the hurt. And then she said it. Casually, almost as an afterthought. I just want to be totally honest with you. She started. And my stomach dropped. While I've been gone, I've been on some dating apps. The phone felt heavy and cold in my hand. My brain was trying to catch up. Trying to make sense of the tone she was using. It was so matter of fact. Okay. I managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. And I've slept with 3 men. The world just stopped. It was like the sound was sucked out of the room. 3. The number echoed in my head. Not one mistake. Not a drunken one-night stand. 3 different men. In 1 month. While I was at home. Sick with regret. Hoping she would call me. My mind immediately went into overdrive. Splitting into 2 warring factions. One side, the logical side, was screaming at me. You have no right to be angry. You weren't a couple. She told you that. It's her body. Her choice. She doesn't owe you anything. But the other side, my heart, was just shattered. It felt like a betrayal of everything we'd built. The poems. The future plans. The soul-piercing intimacy. Did any of that mean anything? I was trying to hold both of these thoughts in my head at the same time. My logical understanding that I had no claim on her. And the raw, undeniable pain of what she just told me. An argument was inevitable. But the real issue wasn't that she did it. It was what happened when I asked her for one simple thing in the middle of all that pain. We had an argument after she told me. Of course. But that initial fight isn't the point. I know I overreacted. I know. Logically. That we weren't an official couple and she had every right to do what she did. It's her body. She didn't owe me exclusivity. I get it. After the initial shock wore off, I tried to salvage the conversation. I took a deep breath and laid my cards on the table, trying to be as vulnerable and honest as I could. Look, I said, my voice shaky. I'm still in love with you. Hearing that, it hurts more than I can even describe. I understand the truth. I'm not asking you to take it back. But please, for my sake, just don't give me the details. I don't need to know what you did with them, where you went, what they were like. Just knowing it happened is enough. Please, just spare me that. I thought it was a reasonable request. A plea for mercy. Really. I wasn't asking her to lie. I was asking for a small act of kindness. Her response was immediate and cold. No, she said flatly. I was stunned. No. Why? It's not my job to control your feelings, she said, and it felt like she was reading from a pop psychology script. And I'm not willing to feed into your delusion. That's the part that broke my brain. My delusion. What delusion? I had just faced the truth head on. I acknowledged her freedom, our non-status, and the reality of what she'd done. The delusion she was referring to, apparently, was the one where she might actually care enough about me to not actively cause me more pain. Her refusal felt like a deliberate choice to hurt me. It wasn't about honesty. It was about cruelty. That's when the argument went nuclear. We both said personal, ugly things. And I fully admit I'm mostly responsible for how low it went. I was just so blindsided by her complete lack of compassion. So here's my question. Reddit. Feel free to comment on the whole story. But this is the part I can't get out of my head. Why was she so willing, so insistent, on telling me, someone she owed no information to and knew was still in love with her? The brutal, unnecessary details. But she couldn't tell her own husband. The one person who actually did deserve to know the truth about what she did with me. A single thing. Why did she feed into his delusion that she was faithful, protecting him from a truth he had a right to? Personally, I think I know the answer. I think it's because she's a coward. With her husband, telling the truth came with real consequences. His rightful anger, a messy confrontation, maybe even an unfavorable divorce settlement. With me, there are no consequences for her. The only consequence is my pain. And that's clearly a price she's willing to let me pay. Am I seeing this right? Why would a person protect a partner they're leaving with lies, but punish someone they claim to love with a truth that's designed to wound?